Hello. In a couple of days we're going to be celebrating the feast of St. Scholastica, who was the sister of St. Benedict. And she is noted for two particular miracles. The first is that her brother, St. Benedict, came to visit her shortly before she died, apparently. And I think she probably knew this, but Benedict met her, and when he turned to go, he felt pressed to go back, because he had to go back to the monastery, make sure the monks weren't being naughty and having drunken parties or anything like that. And Scholastica said, no, I'd like to stay, dear brother, please stay, and talk a little bit more about heaven. And Benedict said, no, I've got to get back. And so Scholastica got very, very upset, and she started crying, and she prayed to God. And God, in his mercy, sent a huge rainstorm, a thunderstorm, and made the route back to the Benedictine monastery, of which St. Benedict was the abbot, made the route back absolutely impassable. And St. Benedict was quite put out by this, but nonetheless he knew he was forced to stay by the will of God, and he stayed with his sister. They talked all night about heaven, and at the end of the night the storm ceased and Benedict went home, went back to the monastery. That was the first miracle. The second miracle occurs a few days later, when Scholastica went to heaven. She died, and St. Benedict saw her soul rise like a dove towards heaven. What are we to make of these sorts of stories? We hear a lot of stories like this. The hagiographies and martyrologies are full of these miracles, these wonderful occurrences, some of them quite outlandish. I heard the wonderful story in a song called a cantiga about the Virgin Mary, who the people prayed to because they'd lost their steak. A nice juicy steak had gone missing, and they prayed to the Virgin Mary, and suddenly they could hear a thumping coming from a chest, and they opened the chest, and there was the steak dancing about inside. And so rather than eat it, they venerated the Holy Virgin and hung it on a silken thread for everyone to admire. And you know how people will react to stories like that. They'll say, oh, how silly. Which is a shame. Yes, there are outlandish stories, but they all have one thing in common, that they show the level of devotion that people have to God, where they will expect him to do things that really transcend what we're used to. We call these things miracles. We have an idea that a miracle should somehow subvert the natural course of things. There's a sense of truth in that, but if I'm honest, I prefer to look at miracles from the very root of the word, which is mirror, the Latin word mirror, I wonder. We get the same root as admiration. So miracle is something to wonder at, and I rather think that miracles are indeed all around us, because they give us this sense of wonder. If something outlandish happens to you and no one else witnesses it, it seems a shame that people won't believe your story, even if it's true. Even if some ball lightning, which is a perfectly natural phenomenon, were to appear in the middle of your room and burst and set fire to the carpet. You can say that's what happened, but you can bet your boots that someone will come along and say, "Oh, you were smoking and dropped your cigarette on the floor, and you're trying to cover it up." It's important that we do use rational explanation. We need to find... We have science. But science has a wonder of its own. And you can look into the wonderful galaxies, and you look out into the depths of space, and you see something beautiful out there, and it gives you that sense of wonder. You can go to a cathedral and be awed at the architecture. You can see the beauty of a landscape. I'm very lucky that my computer now seems to want to show me all kinds of lovely landscapes. Some beautiful, beautiful things. They make me wonder. And mathematics too. Looking at some truly glorious theorems in mathematics. Science is filled with wonder, but where does that wonder come from? Does it come from me? Well, people say yes, it does. It's some psychological phenomenon. But I don't think so. And if you've ever felt wonder, I wonder how you experience it in your life. We seem to be losing that sense of wonder, that sense of something beyond the world. Or perhaps we are beginning to reclaim it. We've got so many people writing some incredible stories now in literature. We need to cultivate wonder once more, because ultimately we are going to be confronted with a God who surpasses all our expectations of what it is to be beautiful, what it is to be good, what it is to be lovely, what it is to be true and just and real. We're going to be confronted with this God. And if we've forgotten how to wonder, it's possible we've forgotten how it works, forgotten how to wonder even at God. So, as St. Benedict seems so used to miracles, he seemed to be performing them quite regularly, to the joy of his monks. His sister seemed to have no less trouble. But do we see our miracles today? They are about. There are plenty of things there that make us wonder, and more so, point us to Almighty God. The great miracle of the resurrection is something that should be in our minds daily. Indeed, when we say our prayers, if we're saying our creed properly, and we think about that resurrection, that wonderful miracle, then we should be cultivating that sense of wonder in our lives. So God bless you. May you rekindle in yourself anew that wonderful sense of awe and majesty. God bless you, that your lives may be shaken but not stirred by the love of God and the truth of his existence. And God bless you, and may people see in you the miracle of being that only God can give you. God bless you, and please pray for me.